morning, the UN Climate Change Summit begins in Glasgow in the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Modi is going to be attending this Climate Change Summit on the 1st and 2nd of November. Leaders from 196 countries are participating in the summit. Research scholars hope that the Indian Prime Minister will announce ambitious plans and pathways going forward. India, remember, rejected calls to announce net zero carbon emissions targets. India is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. The Paris Agreement 2015 was, of course, a major landmark where India pledged to reduce the carbon footprint by about 35% by 2030.
The Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, is going to be attending the COP26 Summit on climate change for 2 dates between the 1st and the 2nd of November. India's projected announcements have been shared, which don't, according to experts, look too different or too aggressive from what the Paris Agreement was back in 2015. I have with me academicians to try and understand what India's position is globally, apart from the fact that it is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases after China and the USA. I am at the Grantham Institute of Climate Activities and Environment in the Imperial College. With me is Professor Ralph Toomey, and also with me is Shivika Mittal, who's going to be joining us to share their viewpoints. To you, Ralph, first. You said India is in a vulnerable position globally. Why would you say that?
Well, it has a huge agricultural sector, many people employed in agriculture, and we know agriculture is very vulnerable, so the impacts of climate change will definitely be felt at agricultural level. And then on the other hand, we know India is a big emitter in sum total, so it has both high emissions and high vulnerability.
Where do you see India in the global scenario, in the sense, this interesting aspect you pointed out, on how a rickshawala on the street of India is probably not aware of climate change. So is that the starting point for India, to try and make it a manifesto point to make sure that awareness is high?
I think awareness can definitely be improved, so I think education is very important. I think also in terms of the government, I think they need to embrace the transition as a way for development as opposed to an alternative to development. I think fossil fuel and development is not going to work like it did maybe during Paris.
India is highly dependent on coal as an industry. Too many jobs are dependent on the same. And at the same time, India is having ambitions of trying to get to net zero, where its greenhouse gas emissions are targeted to be reduced by about 35% by 2030. You are working, Shivika, on a project which sounds so interesting to me, where you're trying to create a pathway for India to try to get there. And given the fact that it's so coal reliant, what's the journey going to look like?
India has to invest a lot in renewables. And also, let's say, if you look at the NDC target, and in the NDC document, India mentioned they're going to install 63 gigawatt of nuclear. But right now, installed capacity of nuclear is only 6. That is non-fossil fuel, I should say, capacity, electricity capacity. So India has to actually, increase the investment in renewables. They have to increase investment in EVs. So the transition is little bit slow. If we want to achieve net zero, we have to invest in these industries. And as Raf mentioned, we can actually develop, we can generate jobs in this industry, and we can develop as well as we can achieve the net zero target.
Given renewable energy slowly becoming cost effective, also becoming reliable, would you suppose that India now focuses on manufacturing because of its Make in India campaign? We are talking about how electric cars are so popular now globally. Could India potentially start tapping on that space to try and invite some global makers or Indian makers to make those cars, for example?
Yeah, there are initiatives actually. If you look at the Tesla is planning to invest in India, and there are all other countries, or other, I should say, manufacturers also planning to invest. So that I'm saying that the transition cost is very high. So government has to make sure that this transition cost is low, and the global companies like Tesla and others can come and invest in India, and India can become a manufacturing hub for the low carbon technologies.
Are you very keen to listen to Mr. Modi's speech to see if he's actually going to make these announcements?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that, let's say, in the COP, we will see some good announcement from Prime Minister Modi, because he's done actually a good job, like International Solar Alliance, and there's a disaster for coalition infrastructure. So these initiatives, they have done it at the global level. So I am hoping that he will announce something.
Radhika Iyer reporting on the Climate Change Summit 26 2021 for NDTV.